So the past week was honestly probably one of the best weeks for Fallout modding we've had in a really long time. There's been other standout weeks without a doubt, but I would say what this past one does have is just so many different top tier mods. Things that are extremely well done, high quality, and that you'll probably be using for quite a while after this week. Naturally in this video I'm going to be going over just about all of that, showing you some of the best new releases for Fallout 4 on PC and Xbox One, and if you see something you like, I will have a link to that down below where you guys can download it for yourself. But also, if you guys do enjoy the content, you can leave a like or subscribe. I have several other modding videos coming in the next week or so that I think a lot of you will be pretty excited for. I'm excited for them myself. And yeah, one of the big appeals of this most recent week is almost every major DLC-sized overhaul mod coming to Fallout 4 had a mod release. So first and foremost, we're actually going to be looking at a mod not from a major modding project, just a standalone weapon mod from GageStorm. That with the REM92 lever action shotgun. The lever action rifle is actually, in my eyes, one of the coolest weapons in Fallout 4 and 76. Yet, for whatever reason, the lever action system as a whole hasn't gotten a ton of attention in the modding scene, well, at least until now. What the lever action shotgun is going to be is, as you guessed, a lever action style shotgun. There's always been a big craze around pump action shotguns, and this is definitely in a similar vein, but actually quite a bit better because you could fire it faster. The implementation of this one is pretty great. There are a lot of customization options, so you could change the look and feel, making it a bit more modern, or even like a sniper using slug shells, or just a typical lever action shotgun with some of that wood furniture and how you kind of expected it to look in old school movies. But of course, one of the other standout animations, seeing this actually being fired in third person, those animations are really crisp, clean, and just fun to look at. And even though in first person you don't get a total look at those animations, you can definitely tell you're taking advantage of that lever action motion because you could fire this thing pretty quickly, especially for a shotgun that you do have to cock back after each shot. And this all definitely generalizes to combat. It's a blast to use, a lot of fun to take down enemies with. As it stands right now, the only way you could actually get this is by crafting it at a chem station. It's not currently in the leveled list, but even with that stipulation in mind, it's still a great addition to the game, and naturally very different from basically every other shotgun mod we have right now. But speaking of mods that are very different, we also do have the quad barrel shotgun, otherwise known as the Liberator from Fallout Miami. This has actually been getting teased for quite a while at this point, but more or less what it's going to do is add in a new quad barrel shotgun. Of note, there's actually two separate variants of this. Just default, you could find the quad barrel shotgun. You'll start finding it on gunners after level 25, and it's just a shotgun that has 4 barrels. But there's also the Liberator variant. This is going to have some custom lettering on it. I think it's a lot cooler in general, but also it'll only fire explosive shells, making it particularly powerful. To get the Liberator version, you're going to have to do a short quest. I don't want to spoil the quest, but it's actually pretty well done, even if it is pretty short. Here's a short snippet from the holotape that actually kind of introduces you and starts the quest off for you.
To whoever gets their mitts on this, you got a job to do. Take whatever you want off my body. Cop a feel, I don't care. My right leg's gone and it feels like the rest of me's just seeping out. Ain't no coming back from this. With my luck, it's probably some scaver that picks this up while scrounging for caps.
It's definitely a really cool quest, and the Liberator itself is a really cool weapon. You can just tell by the visuals, both the quad barrel and Liberator have a really cool and unique look in game. Where this really starts to shine is actually in those reload animations. I'm not sure what it is about them exactly, but I feel like there's a good combination of being fluid and quick, it's practical to use in game, but also just looking so cool. It makes using this weapon very satisfying, even though outside of that it doesn't have a ton of customization options. You can do some minor stuff with these stocks and barrels, but otherwise what you see is mostly what you're gonna get. But honestly, at least for me, that's mostly okay. This weapon is a ton of fun to use in game, and when fully kitted out, it is definitely a menace that can wipe out entire squads of enemies with relative ease. Specifically talking about the Liberator version here. But yeah, looking at both of those mods in tandem, two really cool and unique shotgun mods, each of which I say are easy download. But even outside of that, let's also look at a new mod from Fallout 4, the Capital Wasteland project, that being the Fallout 3 remake in Fallout 4's engine, and that's introducing the classic metal armor. I mean, with those two cool shotguns, you want something cool to wear while using them, right? So what the classic metal armor is going to do is, as you guessed it, add in a new armor in Fallout 4, but hopefully it looks really familiar. It's a recreation of the metal armor we saw from Fallout 3, but naturally this one's a lot higher quality and I think actually looks pretty amazing. Similar to the quad barrel shotgun, it doesn't have a ton in the way of customization, but frankly it doesn't really need it. There's two different helmets you can use, one that has a full face mask, one that doesn't. You also have the ability to change which under armor you're wearing under the actual classic metal armor itself. But just in general, I think the aesthetic of this one fits really well into Fallout 4. In my eyes at least, Fallout 3 had some of the best Raider-esque or apocalyptic styled armors, this being one of my favorites. This Fallout 4 version is definitely one of the coolest armor mods we've seen in a very long time, but naturally also just fits into the game really well with the existing themes and lore. But speaking of Fallout 3, we also do have the N99, aka the 10mm pistol from Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas. This one was actually created by Toasty Fresh for the larger mod Fallout 4 New Vegas, and I gotta say, even though I've seen several attempts at mods like this and even this pistol in some of the older games, the model and textures come together to look really good in Fallout 4. The visuals on this one stood out to me in particular, even out of all the mods I cover in this video. It does have the basic set of customization options. You could change the caliber type, you could add some different attachments to it. One thing in particular I liked, when modifying some of the receivers, there's actually a visual difference for some of them, as well as it'll actually affect the fire rate, so it's not like there's one that's clearly better than the other. One fires faster, doing slightly less damage, and one will fire slower, but do more damage. And again, you can visually see the difference between those two options. And this one's going to be implemented into the level list, so from time to time, you'll just find raiders carrying it around. Honestly, an extremely good looking weapon, and I think another easy addition to the game. I'm sure in not too much time, there'll be some mods out there allowing you to actually replace the existing 10mm with this one completely. But taking a step aside from some of those weapon mods, we also do have the Fungal Forest, and this is a really simple but a really cool mod for Fallout 4. What this is going to do is actually add in these kind of weird mushrooms into the glowing sea. And yeah, that's it. That's the entire mod. Although that is a bit of an oversimplification, many of these are actually hand placed, and even as you're just walking through the glowing sea, you can tell there was some effort put into the placement of these. It never feels like too much and just feels like it was meant to be this way from the beginning. The overall idea or goal behind this was to make the glowing sea feel a little bit more special. Yeah, there's always rad storms there, but now actually having some visual and environmental differences does convey that. It makes the glowing sea feel a bit different, a bit better and more interesting. Unfortunately, at least as of right now, there's nothing else to these mushrooms, but this is actually just a small part of a larger mod project known as Flora that will be affecting the world in several other ways, and you could look forward to seeing that in the future. All in all though, these mushrooms, although simple, are lore friendly, they actually make sense to appear there, and really spice up the glowing sea, making it, for me at least, a lot more interesting. Have you ever noticed how Bethesda doesn't take advantage of their own robot crafting workbench? In the Automatron DLC, you'll find various kinds of robots, but there's actually not that many. Even though some of these custom robots you do fight are different from one another, they're always within the same breed. There's not that much customization going on. What Automatron Randomized bots is going to do is actually expand that. It'll make some of the robots you fight against when actually going against the Rust Devils or even the Mechanist feel a little bit more different, unique, and custom, as they're going to be taking advantage of more aspects of the robot customization system. This is one of those mods that when it's working well, you're probably not going to notice much. It'll just make it so your interactions with these robot enemies feel a little bit more different each time you have them. It's one of those features that I think probably should have just been in the game to begin with. A little bit more diversity in your enemies, but at the same time, at least we have modders fixing it for us. So looking at this mod list, there wasn't a ton on Xbox One right now. Several of these actually have plans to come to Xbox One, but aren't quite there yet. So I did want to shout out a couple of recent mods that just got ported over to Xbox One that are pretty awesome and definitely worth downloading. The first of which is the Crossbreak action laser. This is actually a fairly old mod coming out all the way back in 2017, but one of my favorites from Nero. It's basically a new type of laser in the game that is pretty unique and custom. You can use it as a grenade launcher, as a shotgun, and there are several other options out there, but it's one of my favorite mods. It's obviously quite lore friendly, basically just using the existing laser ammo and platform, but also just a really cool one that I think if you're not using, you're missing out on. But then we also did see the release of the crossed Wasteland Ronin on Xbox One also. This mod came out just 3 weeks ago or so, but only just released on Xbox. This is definitely up there in my top 5 favorite armor mods of all time. It's maybe not the most lore friendly at first glance, but I just think in general it looks really cool. In a lot of instances, fits in surprisingly well with the other world of Fallout 4. Again, you probably remember this one. I only just talked about it recently in a video, but now you could actually get get it on console. But yeah, hopefully you guys found this video informative. Those are some of the major new releases for Xbox One and PC as far as Fallout 4 mods go. A lot of really great stuff here. Probably something for just about all of you if you're playing this game actively. A lot of great weapon mods from some of these major modding projects, which I just love to see. And I don't think it was planned, but it's kind of funny how it just worked out that so many of those long work in progress mods got released in the same week or so. But as I've been doing with almost all of the Fallout 4 modding videos lately, I do want to do today's psychology fun fact of the day, and that's actually going to be on the replication crisis. So if you're not familiar with this, it's this fairly large and major thing going on in psychology. It's kind of dying down. It was really at its peak a couple of years ago, but effectively in psychology, when you're actually doing a study, you'll cite previous studies. So if I'm conducting research on human memory, I might look at previous theories and findings on human memory and then cite them in that. Well, over the past 10 or so years, some people, rather than just taking that for granted, actually decided, hey, why don't I rerun their research? Let me try and do that again and see if I get the same thing. And well, a lot of people are finding, no, you're actually not getting the same results. As many researchers were finding, famous and very highly referenced studies were unable to be replicated. Under the same conditions, they could not get the same results that those original studies did, which is concerning because of how much of a basis they've served as. And this is still ongoing. It's known as the replication crisis, as I mentioned, and it's actually a really interesting read, a really cool rabbit hole to get down. A lot of studies that if you've even taken just a few psychology classes, you've probably heard of didn't replicate. People aren't able to actually find those same things today as they did originally. There are a couple of factors that could have gone into this. A couple of really famous social psychologists very recently were revealed to have just fabricated all of their work or a good chunk of their work, but other times it could have been inadvertent and due to a byproduct of poor testing conditions or just not as up-to-date testing conditions as we have today. Either way, as always, again, I thank you for watching. Hopefully you found this video informative, but with that, I hope to see you all next time. Later.